Before we have our invocation, I would like to demonstrate an in full faith, as you just said it, and the way you should be releasing the power of that fiat. There is a difference between reciting prayers and delivering a fiat unto God. And unless you walk away from this summer quarter with that understanding, you will not have the empowerment that God wishes to bestow upon you. Everything is in the spoken word. So I would like you to stand. And I would like to give this an in full faith with you simply listening. I want you to feel the fire and listen to my voice, because what you have just done and what you have just heard in our leaders is not up to par. The science of the spoken word is an ancient science. Mark Prophet was a high priest in a temple of Atlantis. I recall serving on Atlantis as well. It was in Atlantis that we and many people who are on earth today received the training from the priests of Atlantis. And so this particular and in full faith was sing-songy. It wasn't commanding God. It wasn't demanding the light to descend and be poured into the matrix of the decree that you just said. I'm going to be with you for Friday and Saturday night services, and I want you to listen. I want you to listen to me. Not tune me out, but listen to how I am leading the decrees and how I'm giving the fiats. If you catch this, you will have it forever. If you don't catch it, you'll be at a mediocre level. And the question is, do you want to reach the throne of God with your pleas and your prayers and feel the fire you have sent to God multiplied and returned to you, or are you just content to recite decrees and not be really centered, drawing in your chakras, standing straight or sitting straight, feeling that you are the temple of God, and then you say,
and in full faith I consciously accept this manifest, manifest, manifest. And in full faith I consciously accept this manifest, manifest, manifest. And in full faith I consciously accept this manifest, manifest, manifest. Right here and now with full power, eternally sustained, all powerfully active, ever expanding and world enfolding, until all are wholly ascended in the light and free.
Please give this with me together. Now, you're not going to be shouting, but you're going to be intense. We don't just shout, shout, shout to God. We're very intense, very centered, and we are giving God the fohat and the power of our chakras that we have stored there for many lifetimes. And he will send back to us a multiplication of the fohat that we released. So as much as you give will be multiplied. Together.
And in full faith I consciously accept this manifest, manifest, manifest. And in full faith I consciously accept this manifest, manifest, manifest. And in full faith I consciously accept this manifest, manifest, manifest. Right here and now with full power, eternally sustained, all powerfully active, ever expanding and world enfolding, until all are wholly ascended in the light and free. Beloved I am, beloved I am, beloved I am.
Great. We're going to set the world on fire. Let's have our opening invocation, please.
In the name of the light of God that never fails, Pallas Athena, come forth. Pallas Athena, come forth. Pallas Athena, come forth in the name of the Lords of Karma. Come forth, Goddess of Liberty. Come forth, beloved Nada. Come forth, great divine director, beloved Cyclopea. Raise the power of the Lords of Karma. Raise the power of the Sun God. Bold light penetrate through. Bold light penetrate through. Blaze light the light of God. Blaze light the light of God. Blaze run. Blaze run. Blaze run. Blaze run.
While we're moving the lectern, let us give our Kufumi's I Am Light decree. Please look at the portrait of Kufumi. Meditate on his wondrous qualities of sweetness, tremendous fortitude, and the fact that he is in equal office to beloved Jesus as world teachers. I am light, glowing light, radiating light, intensified light. God consumes my darkness, transmuting it into light. This day I am the focus of the central sun. Flowing through me is a crystal river, a living fountain of light that can never be qualified by human thought and feeling. I am an outpost of the divine. Such darkness as has used me is swallowed up by the mighty river of light which I am. I am, I am, I am light. I live, I live, I live in light. I am light's fullest dimension. I am light's purest intention. I am light, 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 flooding the world everywhere I move, blessing, strengthening, and conveying the purpose of the kingdom of heaven. Salutation to the Son of God. O mighty presence of God, I am in and behind the sun. I welcome thy light which floods all the earth, into my life, into my mind, into my spirit, into my soul. Radiate and blaze forth thy light. Break the bonds of darkness and superstition. Charge me with a great clearness of thy white fire radiance. I am thy child, and each day I shall become more of thy manifestation. Beloved Saint Germain's heart mantra. Don't forget your angel booklets, because we will decree from them whenever I am here. This is 07A. I am the light of the heart, shining in the darkness of being and changing all into the golden treasury of the mind of Christ. I am projecting my love out into the world to erase all errors and to break down all barriers. I am the power of infinite love, amplifying itself until it is victorious, world without end. I am the light of the heart, shining in the darkness of being and changing all into the golden treasury of the mind of Christ. I am projecting my love out into the world to erase all errors and to break down all barriers. I am the power of infinite love, amplifying itself until it is victorious, world without end. I am the light of the heart, shining in the darkness of being and changing all into the golden treasury of the mind of Christ. I am projecting my love out into the world to erase all errors and to break down all barriers. I am the power of infinite love, amplifying itself until it is victorious, world without end. I am the light of the heart, shining in the darkness of being and changing all into the golden treasury of the mind of Christ. I am projecting my love out into the world to erase all errors and to break down all barriers. I am the power of infinite love, amplifying itself until it is victorious, world without end. I am the light of the heart, shining in the darkness of being and changing all into the golden treasury of the mind of Christ. I am projecting my love out into the world to erase all errors and to break down all barriers. I am the power of infinite love, amplifying itself until it is victorious, world without end. I am the light of the heart, shining in the darkness of being and changing all into the golden treasury of the mind of Christ. I am projecting my love out into the world to erase all errors and to break down all barriers. I am the power of infinite love, amplifying itself until it is victorious, world without end. What we did with this decree was to begin softly and in a prayerful manner. And once we set the prayer and we set our energies, we began to increase the intensity. Intensity is a key word in decreeing, and it's too cold on the altar today. Intensity is a very key word because it means that you are almost as if you were pressing dough through a circle of metal, and you're pressing the dough through. It is an intense release of the fire of your heart. The goal of decreeing is to be able to pour into each decree the energies of each of the 7 chakras and of the threefold flame of the heart. So as you purify your chakras, they become activated. And so the light from each of your chakras comes together, and when you have all 7 or all 8, you have the pure white light going forth in your decrees. So the words intensity go with decrees, to feel the fervor. Fervor is another word. You should have your notebooks out now because we're not decreeing anymore, we're giving instruction. So when you think about decrees, you want to think about intensity, self-discipline, fervor. You decree fervently. Think of other words that remind you that what you are doing is being a channel for the fire of God in the earth. Jesus said, I came to send fire on the earth. Now, how did he send fire in the earth? He sent it through his heart chakra. He sent it through all of his chakras. He sent it through the Christ presence that he was and through the I am presence that overshadowed him. So when Jesus made a statement and an I am affirmation, Jesus was pouring all of his being through those words. Heaven and earth may pass away, but my word shall live forever. We know why. Because the word of the Son of God does not disintegrate, because it is pure, it is perfect. So if you have psychology that you're working on, and we all have psychology that we are working on, you want to remember that when it comes time to decree, don't let that psychology reflect in your voice, like you feel dragged down, or you feel burdened, or you feel this, or you feel that, and your whole being is going on a decelerating downward spiral. The idea is to keep the energies of your being spiraling upward at all times. So when it comes that you are burdened and feel sorrowful, and this is bothering you and that's bothering you, you have to quickly remember what's happening here is I'm allowing the fire of my heart, which I'm sending upward, I'm allowing it to go down in a decelerating spiral. So I'm getting nowhere while I am allowing this to exist. So the more you intensify, the more you accelerate on the path, the more you see that God throws to you all kinds of challenges and situations that you must deal with. And they come fast and furiously. It's just like having an ace pitcher pitching you balls, and you either strike out or you make a home run. So you have to be self-observers. I mentioned being self-observers in our first lecture. You need to observe. What is your mind doing? What is your mind thinking about? Do you want your mind to think about these subjects? Or are they immaterial and inconsequential to your spiritual victory? So where is the focus of your mind? To what end are you placing the energies of your crown chakra? Observe the chakras, and what are they doing? Be self-observers. So these words that we connect with decrees are devotion, profound love for God in the path of Bhakti Yoga, where we are worshiping the person of God, the person of Jesus Christ, or other masters of the Far East. So there is devotion, there is worship, there is holiness, which we build as a momentum. If we come to the altar seeking holiness and bringing holiness, then our auras also contain holiness, so that when we give our decrees, it is the shining light of holiness that comes through the cups that are the chalice of the spoken word. So whatever momentum you have that is great and pure and wonderful, that you can give to God, that is the energy you are channeling through your decrees. So when your mouth knows the words and your heart knows the prayer, then you can visualize very clearly the healing thought form if you are on the 5th ray and working with healing, or any of the rays. So a lot of things are happening when you decree. Worlds are changing. Worlds are dying within you and being consumed by the violet flame, and worlds are being initiated within you. So the science of the spoken word is the one thing that God has not deprived us of. Other things we have lost by straying from the center of being, but the spoken word he has preserved for us. Today, the grist for the mill has to do with some experiences I've had and some experiences that you have had. Let us consider the Christian churches of the world. There is not a Christian church in the world today that is perfect or fully exemplifying the teachings of Jesus Christ for only one reason, and that is because the teachings of Jesus Christ were lost. And so various individuals have received commissions from God or felt the calling in their heart, and they have founded churches. John Wesley founded the Methodist Church. The Lutherans were founded, and it goes on and on and on. But if you were to go into any of these churches of the world today, you would find incomplete understanding and incomplete teachings, and leaders who were not fully enlightened in the wisdom of God. So we have many, many people who are trying to bring the kingdom of God on earth, and they are doing their best with what they have. As I told you yesterday, I was looking for a church that would give me the richest and most profound teaching when I was 9, and after surveying all the churches in town, I recognized that I would learn the most from Christian Science. And I went into various churches prior to that and listened to the preachers preaching, and Jesus would overshadow me and tell me that this, that, and the next thing that he was saying did not have his full teaching, and that many of us, many of you here who were with him 2,000 years ago, had to re-embody through these centuries so that we would be here, and he would bring to our remembrance the teaching, and he would dictate those teachings and correct it. He said his teachings had been lost, and the art of healing had been lost. These were the two things that were lost from the time that he took his ascension. So I went to the Christian Science Church. I studied very religiously the Bible and the texts written by Mary Baker Eddy. And one of the fundamental teachings in Christian Science is that matter is not real. Now, in the ultimate sense, matter is not real. But right now, we have a table here, and it makes a noise, and we can pound on it, and for all intents and purposes, the chairs we are sitting on are real, and the molecules of our bodies are real, and so forth. So the way the affirmation and denial goes in Christian Science is if you have a sickness, it's not real because it can only be real in matter. But if matter is not real, then the sickness is not real either. So it's kind of a process of logic, prayer, and by much repetition and rehearsal of certain affirmations of being, you have yourself kind of psyched up in the belief that you are going to be healed, and many people are healed. However, the flaw in this healing practice is that people, by their willing and their wishing, they are willing away the disease, but it is a mental willing. So they will away the disease, and they do it so strongly using their mind that the disease actually goes back into the etheric body. They're not really healed of the disease, but it appears that they are healed because they are well and they go back to work or whatever. So Almoria explained all of this to me when I was coming out of the Christian Science Church and I was leaving Boston to go to be trained as a messenger by Almoria through Mark Prophet. And so because I had been so long a student of Christian Science, it was quite a major upheaval in my life to be told that this, and this doctrine is really not the full teaching of Jesus Christ. So I went and visited an I Am sanctuary in New York, and it so happened that the head of that sanctuary had studied Christian Science, and so she sat me down, and she said to me, matter is real. It was like someone set off a nuclear bomb. I had already resigned myself and resolved myself that whatever the ascended masters were going to teach me and whatever I was going to learn from this visit, I was going to have an open mind. So I kept my mind open, but I went through a tremendous transformation at that time. And so I began to realize that, and as Almoria showed me, that in the previous century, in 1875, there were a number of movements that were founded. The Theosophical Society was founded in 1875, and Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures was completed by Mary Baker Eddy in 1875. So there were certain adepts such as K.H., Master M., Dwal Kul, Saint Germain, the Ma-Cho Han, who sponsored certain individuals on the planet already a century and more ago. Prior to that, the sponsorship was far and few between. So we have imperfect channels, we have imperfect people standing at the pulpits, we have people who have received messages from God, as Mary Baker Eddy did. And it's a very interesting thing because at one point in her life, she seriously investigated homeopathy. Now, homeopathy would have been the great contribution that Christian Science would have made, because there is an infinitesimal amount of the cure within the preparation, and perhaps something of the disease itself, however, whatever type of homeopathy you're dealing with. But she rationalized in the following way, that if you could heal disease with a homeopathic remedy that was barely material itself because it is so broken down, then you could heal disease without it at all. And with that logic, she threw out homeopathy. Now, homeopathy is one of the greatest sciences known to man, and the easiest means of healing disease without all kinds of chemicals and problems on the body. Now, this is an example of how a human person who can heal by touching someone who had a tremendous power and light still was in the human octave and still made human mistakes. So we go on now to where I'm age 18. I'm standing on the steps of the Christian Science Church and in my hometown in Red Bank, New Jersey. And I came out of the church, and the day was bright and glorious, and I saw standing before me on the steps coming out of the church, the Archangel Gabriel. I had attended that church since I was 9, and he told me that I must make my ascension in this life. It was a very profound and moving experience. As I thought about Archangel Gabriel coming to that place, I realized that Archangel Gabriel, of course, this is in hindsight, he obviously knew that the doctrines of Christian Science were not perfect, but that they were helping many people as they were. So he who knows all of the theology in the universe nevertheless came to a church that was not perfect, to people who were not perfect, and there he gave me that message. Eula Haney, a very dear person in our community, was visited by God when her aunt packed up her belongings, put her on the doorstep, and told her to go away. She never wanted to see her again. And so she went with her belongings out someplace where there were trees, and she was alone, and she was crying to God, and she was about 5 years old. And God came and talked to her and said, Beulah, Beulah, you have to make your ascension in this life. That was a great comfort and a consolation. It didn't happen in a church. It happened between a figure of God and a child of God on earth. So I would like to talk to you about this because we brought up the subject yesterday of the angel Moroni and the Mormon Church. I want everyone here to know who may have a Mormon background that I have absolutely no criticism of the Mormon Church whatsoever. That when I was a child and the two ministers would come to our door, every time they came, which was usually twice a year, my mother allowed me to invite them in, and they would sit down and talk to me and teach me about God. And I would always want to hear about God, and so I always looked forward to their coming. I spoke to you of Moroni simply because God gave me that teaching, and God allowed him to expose himself so that I would be able to speak to those of you who came out of the Mormon Church and who are still practicing Mormons, which is fine, so that you would understand that, as Jesus has told me, and this is a very interesting matter, Jesus has told me that there are fallen angels in every Christian church in the world, fallen angels in the hierarchy of those churches. And this is something we have to live with. We are living with a world that has fallen angels in it, and bright stars, and people who are mystics, and people who are determined to transcend themselves, such as you who are sitting here. If we know that there is a fallen angel, or several fallen angels, or many fallen angels in any church, ought we not to be praying for their judgment, for their exposure, for the binding of the dweller on the threshold? Of course we should. It is the nature of the imperfection of Christianity and the false doctrines and dogmas that have been handed down to us through the centuries that have left us vulnerable to fallen angels. If we knew the truth, the real truth of Jesus' original teachings, we would never be fooled by fallen angels. So I wanted to give an opportunity to any of you who wish to discuss Mormonism to ask questions. You can come to the lectern here and clear up any and all understandings you would like to clear up at this time, because I really would like to settle this issue. And if you will ask a question, please come to the lectern so everyone can hear you. Yes, please.
When you're standing here at the podium, please do not touch the microphone. Please don't lean into it. And when you ask Mother your question, please speak in a natural voice. Don't talk loud or don't talk really soft. The microphone will pick you up fine, so just speak in a natural voice. And again, don't grab onto the podium and hang on, because we are videotaping you, and this is so that it will look and sound the best. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mother. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to learn from you and to address our concerns. So question number one. If Moroni is a fallen angel, A, does that mean Joseph Smith was a false prophet? And B, does it mean Joseph could have the karma for leading 8 to 9 million Mormons down the road to hell? And C, I'll give you a copy of this.
That's fine, that's fine. Okay.
Does it mean the scripture he brought forth was false? And 2, The Book of Mormon is the second testament of Jesus Christ. How does it fit into the teachings of the Ascended Masters? And 3, have you read the Book of Mormon? And 4, has Joseph Smith ascended? Thank you.
You need to stay there and then ask me each question separately.
Okay, start at the
Start with
beginning.
number 1.
Okay. If Moroni is a fallen angel, does that mean that Joseph Smith was a false prophet?
We cannot give power to fallen angels, first of all. I am not the judge of Joseph Smith. I judge no man. Jesus taught us that we should judge no man. I have not read the Book of Mormon. I would not consider myself an authority in any way on Mormonism. I think that we should recognize, as I said earlier, and really think about this, that you have false teachers and fallen angels creeping in, not just every Christian church, but every religion of the world. And you have those without a developed heart chakra, with literal or no threefold flame, who are highly intellectual. And religion is not an intellectual subject. Religion is something of the heart. And the mind comes along with it to be able to teach that religion. I don't give the power to Moroni to make Joseph Smith a false prophet, or to be responsible for 9 million Mormons going to hell. This is the mistaken concept of the whole issue, that fallen angels can corrupt innocent souls who are on the path, who are devout, who follow their scriptures as they've been taught since children. It doesn't matter if there are mistakes in their scriptures. What matters is if they learn to love one another, to follow Jesus' words, whether they're out from the gospel of the Book of Mormon on Jesus, or the teachings we have, or the Gnostic text, or whatever. It doesn't make you an evil person or a sinner because you've been a part of a church that did not have 100% true teachings of Jesus Christ. So I wasn't there. I don't know if it was Moroni who gave Joseph Smith the teachings and the Book of Mormon. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Were any of the rest of us there? Were any of all of the Mormons of today there that can testify to that? So it's a matter of belief. Isn't it a subject of belief? Mormons believe this.
Yes.
And then they have a certain proof of it because they have a book.
Mm-hmm.
And was it Joseph Smith who identified Moroni as the angel who gave him that text? Or did he tell him to dig up the records in the earth, or what was it?
Yes, as I believe it, it was. I wasn't there either, so.
Well, let's go
But
through
I-
all the questions,
I
and we can still comment further.
I think you've covered pretty well all of it. I had said the Book of Mormon being a second testament of Jesus Christ, how does it fit into the teachings of the Ascended Masters?
Well, that is for you who are Mormons to discern. You can read the Book of Mormon as well as the Holy Bible, and you can say, well, now, this agrees with Mormonism, or this agrees with the teachings of the Ascended Masters. Do Mormons believe in reincarnation? Is that a tenet, or do they just not discuss it?
Good question. I can't answer that.
Is there a Mormon here who knows that Mormons are free to believe in reincarnation?
We aren't really allowed to. Now, I don't know whether some do or not.
So it's not part of your everyday teaching?
No.
And what about karma?
Karma they never heard of, as far as I know.
That's precisely the point, isn't it? So if you look at, the two cardinal points that have liberated us all is our ability to be responsible for our thought, word, act, and deed, and to be able to pay off the karma we have made through the misuse of thought, word, act, and deed. Now, Christians have had this stripped from them by very early fallen angels that entered the church, such as Theodora and Justinian. And they just wrote away reincarnation and karma. So when I think about going back to the Methodist Church and to the Christian Science Church, I have to put myself in such a past mode of thinking. I'm so far beyond what the church I espoused is teaching that I can no longer take up a textbook from Mary Baker Eddy and stay with it very long, because I'm seeing that she wrote this in 1875 and we're approaching the year 2000. So I think that there is a certain trauma in separating out from something that has been the pillar of our life and our faith and our religion since we were children or since we were converted to this church or the Mormon church. And I think that it's very, very difficult because religion is a matter of faith. So we have accepted certain things on faith, and we realize that there is just no Christian church that has the whole truth today. But they're wonderful Mormons, right? And that's the main thing. You have Mormons who are going to heaven because of their good works. Because in the final analysis, it's not the tenets, it's not the Book of Mormon, it's your compassion and love and kindness toward others. That is what is going to get you where you're going.
It's not the doctrine, then, it's our heart.
Not the
it's
doctrine.
Our pureness of our heart.
That's right. It's the pure. Obviously, we obey the Ten Commandments. We follow the dictates of Jesus. We live right and so forth. But if there's hardness of heart, it doesn't matter what doctrine you have and how long you recite it all day. It's not going to carry you to heaven. It is love and love and love that gets us there.
I've heard that Joseph Smith has ascended. I've also heard that he hasn't ascended. Is there any correct knowledge?
I will tell you the only thing that I know, and that is that a member of our church who was very devout and very advanced on the path claimed that she had been Joseph Smith. I do not know if she took her ascension at the conclusion of this life. I don't often check up on who went somewhere unless I am so directed. Even though I make calls for everyone who passes on in this church, I cut them free from the astral plane and ask for them to be taken to the appropriate octave of light where they are to be. I wouldn't worry about it. Someone is Joseph Smith. You know?
Right. Thank you kindly. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mother. I wish to thank you for giving me this opportunity. I am not of Mormon background, but I have very dear friends who happen to be. And I have nothing but respect for everybody here. Everybody has been extremely kind and compassionate to me. So I have nothing but good things to think about everybody here, and you, of course. I have great respect for everybody here. My question to you, without sounding abrupt, abrasive, or undiplomatic, is if you could give us examples of what or in what way have the Mormon Church been corrupt, or for you to make a statement to the effect that that may be the case, or that is in fact the case with this particular denomination.
I would not judge any church, because I think that the leaders of the church and the members of the church show what they are by their works. I am not here to judge the Mormon Church. I know there are wonderful Mormons in the Mormon Church, and there are wonderful people in every church and synagogue and mosque around the world. So why would I start worrying about whether the Mormon Church is corrupt? It's none of my business.
Because you alluded or stated that this angel was a moron.
Yeah, but the fallen angel, which I just explained, do you understand English well?
Yes.
I did explain that all Christian churches have been invaded by fallen angels in human bodies, walking around, leading the people astray. A fallen angel or a group of fallen angels does not corrupt the church. What corrupts the church are the people who do not live according to the teachings of Jesus Christ or Gautama Buddha or Moses.
Okay.
We don't give fallen angels power. You know, if I were going to speak to Moroni today, I would say to him, you have absolutely no power to corrupt the pure hearts of the Mormon people who are faithful in the Mormon church. We do not dignify him with power, but we expose him so that innocent souls will know the truth and understand this. It's a higher teaching. I'm sure there are many Mormons today who would be very burdened by this teaching, but I am teaching you the Ascended Master's teachings in a retreat setting, and what I'm saying to you is like the inner teachings that Jesus gave to his disciples. These teachings are not for the multitudes. We don't want to destroy the faith of Mormons by going out from here and saying, Elizabeth Clare Prophet says that the angel Moroni is a fallen angel. And as far as the word Moroni is concerned, every fallen angel is a moron because they have rejected God. He simply happens to carry the name, and I just used it as a play on words. But think about it. Lucifer was a moron. Satan was a moron because they left God in their pride. And pride goeth before the fall, and that's how the fallen angels fell. And if you read my book on Enoch, you'll see the amazing story of the fallen angels.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
have to say to you, though, that I'm very new to this. I've been, or have known about your organization for 5 weeks. So it's...
You're not alone.
Thank you.
You're not alone.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mother. Thanks for making yourself accessible and for being willing to clear this up. My question is not about Mormonism, but it's about a scripture that came to my mind from Jude, the book of Jude.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, not speaking evil of dignities. And the context of that is fallen angels, because he's saying Archangel Michael dared not dispute with Satan over the body of Moses after Moses died.
But he preferred to allow God to denounce him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I had a problem with that word moron, referring to Moroni, and I wondered how you reconciled that with this scripture of not speaking evil of dignities, which refers in this case to fallen angels.
That's right. This was more than 2,000 years ago. This was speaking of a time regarding Moses, the body of Moses and the burying of Moses. Each 2,000-year period brings a new dispensation of empowerment to the people of God. Where we are today at the end of the Piscean Age and the beginning of the Aquarian Age, first of all, you have to also remember the words that are written in, I believe, Corinthians regarding the statement that is made that know ye not that you will judge angels. You will judge angels. Why would we be judging Archangel Gabriel or Archangel Michael?
Mm-hmm.
We would be judging fallen angels.
Right.
So we receive that power in the dispensation of the New Testament to judge angels. If you have been to many conferences or even a few where archangels have spoken, especially Archangel Uriel, Archangel Uriel is the angel of the judgment. And when he came in at Easter, at the Easter conference, and again, he stated to us that there was a certain number of fallen angels in the world whose time was up. God had given them 1,000,000 years or so much time to repent of their rebellion against him. And at the end of that time, these angels must be taken. I'm telling you all this because at a certain point in the evolution of our organization, of the messengership of Mark Prophet and myself, we were empowered by God to make the call for the judgment of the fallen angels in the earth who were persecuting the people, such as those individuals in embodiment. When they take embodiment, they look human, but when they are out of embodiment, we see them with their wings and so forth. So when we talk about fallen angels in embodiment, they're people who look like anybody else. Often they're more powerful, ruthless, brutal, and so forth because they are out to destroy the people of God. So Mark, Prophet, and I received the commission early in the 1960s to call for the judgment of the angels, because unless someone in embodiment makes the call for their judgment, they use many subterfuges to wriggle off the hook and not be taken. So the reason we decree and we give judgment calls is we are giving the judgment calls for the judgment of fallen angels who are corrupting our society, our government, our economic systems, messing up the war in Bosnia. All of this is laid at the feet of the fallen angels. So we have come under the dispensation not only because of the turning of the ages of Pisces and Aquarius, but because of ancient past history when Mark and I were already doing this on Atlantis. So we have come with that momentum, and we have taught our students how to make the call for the judgment of fallen angels. So this is a new dispensation. It's just like the age of Aquarius is a dispensation of the Holy Spirit and the Divine Mother. The age of Pisces was the dispensation of Jesus Christ and God the Father. So as we go back each 2,150 years, we have different eras during which the people had certain limitations and then certain gifts. So there were great limitations in the earth at the time of the Dark Ages, for instance, early in the Piscean age.
Well, I give that judgment call myself, sometimes many times a day, and have for the past 8 years, so I don't have any problem with that. But you're saying that it's okay today to speak evil of dignities because it's a new dispensation.
What dignities are you talking about?
The angel, the fallen angel Moroni.
And what is your concern?
Speaking evil of dignities, calling him a moron.
This is the recognition of what and who he actually is. I don't understand how any of us here can respect or call a dignity a fallen angel.
I think that scripture is referring to fallen angels.
Yeah, but the scripture, yes, it does. I've read it carefully. I've read it today. But it goes back to the time of Moses, a dispensation when Archangel Michael deferred to Almighty God to bring the judgment upon Satan. And it says he durst not do this. That was the dispensation at that time, and Archangel Michael was obedient to it. But you have to remember that God considers the evolution of the sons and daughters of God as higher than the angels. So it says of us that we are sons and daughters of God, made a little lower than the angels, but crowned with more glory and honor eventually when we attain our victory. So even the archangels consider themselves to be the servants of the sons and daughters of God and the children of God on earth. So if Jesus Christ had been there with Archangel Michael, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, would have said, "Get thee behind me, Satan." And that's what I say to Moroni today, because we have advanced from the time of Moses to this time of the opening of the Aquarian age.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Hello, Mother. I have that scripture right here, and actually, I get nervous up here. Jude says, "And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains under darkness unto the judgment of the great day. Even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Likewise, also these filthy dreamers, the fallen angels, defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignities." So
you're saying the fallen angels spoke evil of dignities?
Right, it's a description of their...
Yeah, so whereas the fallen angels dare to, in fact, blaspheme God by carrying on, though they are forbidden to do so, we have Jesus Christ. We have Archangel Michael, who is an obedient angel, who does not go beyond the level that he is entitled to go on at that stage of and period of history. So is everyone pretty much satisfied on that scripture? Now, if the angel Moroni comes to tempt you as he came to tempt me and said, "I will make you powerful and I will make you known throughout the world if you will speak my message," Wouldn't you expect that I would say to him, "Get thee behind me, Satan"? What else, what other recourse do I have? When I have been challenged by other fallen angels, I make calls. I command them to get thee behind me. And I may make calls on them with my sword until I have sufficiently and totally banished them from my world. I mean, you don't let fallen angels hang around. And they don't like to be insulted. They definitely don't like to be insulted. So, I think we've all come from different backgrounds, and many of us have not even come from the Christian faith. But we do know that the dispensations of Buddhism and Hinduism have not moved forward accordingly either. The 7 major religions of the world are stuck in the Piscean dispensation. You have come to understand the truth of the mission of Jesus Christ and Gautama Buddha, who lived 500 years before Jesus, and then to build on the truth and the teachings they have given us and to move forward. This is the Church Universal and Triumphant of Jesus Christ and Gautama Buddha, and you will find that the teachings transcend what you've been taught on your mother's lap or your father's lap, and that's okay. We had great training, we were taught morals, we were taught how to live and honor God, and now we're in the next court. Let's take out our books. Jesus, CEO. It's too cold up here. It's coming from the front. Page 15. He believed in himself. I love this book, don't you? It's really fun. You know, I noticed that I had read the Bible so many times in my life that I was reading over things. I wasn't even hearing what I was reading. So it's nice to find an author who can put the Bible and the words of Jesus into today's terms, because we're not stuck in the cadences of the New Testament. Jesus was one of the most confident beings who ever lived. He believed in himself. He envisioned himself as a vital opening for the people. He called himself the gate, the door. He believed his role was also to nurture others. He called himself the vine, the shepherd. He said he came to light the way. In other words, he believed in himself down to his very toes. Belief in oneself is a crucial quality of leadership, because a house divided against itself cannot stand. A leader who fluctuates back and forth sends a very wavery signal, like the soprano who can shatter glass by finding that high note and holding it. A leader who can hold that high note without wavering can shatter walls. Jesus had no ambivalence about who he was or what he was supposed to do. I once attended a seminar where the leader asked, "How many of you believe in yourself 100%? 2 people raised their hands. As the leader went down the percentage scale, more and more people raised their hands. The majority of the people in the room believed in themselves 75% of the time. The leader then asked, "Why are you afraid to go that extra 25%? What do you think would happen?" The group leader asked, "Do you realize that power is assumed, not granted?" I questioned this at first, but then I thought about the times when someone in a group setting took it over, whether he or she had the authority to do so or not. How do people get tapped for leadership positions even when they are not looking for them? Probably because they emanate self-confidence. They have power over themselves, and people pick up on that energy. Perhaps we think 100% belief equals arrogance. Arrogance, however, is lack of self-confidence. Who is arrogant? Lucifer was arrogant. He lacked self-confidence. I know. I saw him face to face. Arrogance, however, is a lack of self-confidence, not self-belief. Jesus was never arrogant or cocky to anyone. Even when he was bound and thrown before the Sanhedrin for trial, he was not arrogant, nor did he deny his own power. My father, an action-oriented person, was never known for his love of poetry. However, I'll never forget the day he sat down with me to plan my college career. He said, "Lori, I learned only one poem in school that stuck with me. Here it is. I bargained with life for a penny, only to learn, dismayed, that any wage I would have asked of life, life would have paid." He looked me straight in the eye and said, "Go for what you want. You can do anything you set your mind to." What do you think the world would be like if people believed in themselves 100%? How much damage is done in this country and in the world every day because of humanity's low self-esteem? How many times have people said, "I don't think I have any real power, so I'm going to get a gun and show that guy who's really the boss. I can't really change my life, so I'd better escape it. Give me a drug. I'll never amount to much, so I might as well drown my sorrows. Make it a double. I'm afraid that you'll take my power away, so here's a fist, a knife, or a knuckle sandwich." The list goes on and on. If only we believed in ourselves, the world would be a better place. Jesus said he came from heaven and was going back to heaven. He came to teach us what heaven was like and how to bring it about on earth, and more important, in ourselves. Jesus believed in himself 100%. Question: how much do you believe in yourself? Question: what would it take for you to believe in yourself down to your very toes? I think you should add a couple of questions to this page, either in your notebook or in the book. If you don't believe in yourself 100% of yourself and of your time, then write down what your self-worth is. Are you worth 50%, 60%, 75%? I had an interesting thing happen to me in the years immediately preceding Mark's ascension. We settled at the Mother House in Santa Barbara. It was a Jewish synagogue. We remade it over. It was a beautiful property. It became too small. We went back to Colorado Springs to regroup. We put on the 1976 conference in Washington, D.C. We went back to California, rented an entire campus of the Church of the Nazarene, where we were several years. And during that period, it came to our attention that the property we call Camelot was for sale. There were a group of undertakers who had the priority on the sale, and they had the first right of refusal. And the place was owned by the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Church was going back and forth and hemming and hawing and hemming and hawing. And I had the attitude that I was waiting for them to pass me the torch. So Elmoria said to me one day, "You know, the Catholic Church is never going to pass you the torch. You are going to have to seize it from them." So that's when I realized what this was all about. So we bought the right of first refusal. We acted on our contract, and even though they tried to not have to sign that contract, they eventually did. And so the Catholic Church was forced to pass the torch. They did not give up that property willingly. When I saw that my mode was an active role, that I had to take action to make this happen, then I was in full gear for action. When I was in the passive mode, I was getting nowhere. You need to write in your notebooks about times when you have made things happen, even though everyone else said they could not happen. This question on page 16, do you realize that power is assumed and not granted? I think that is the most important sentence in this chapter. The Catholic Church was not going to grant me power. I assumed the power, and I took the action that forced their hand. It's very interesting. We could spend hours on each one of these chapters. And if you would like a discussion of any of the chapters gone before or any of your questions, I'm glad to do that also, if that is a mode you would like to get into. I think this course will work for you if you answer the questions every night and think about them and think about what comes to you in the morning. So we'll go on now. He had internal anchors. Jesus said, "Why do you seek after people's approval, but do not seek the approval that comes from only God?" He was an effective leader because he had internal anchors. He did not get his approval from external mechanisms. His actions were not based on what Peter, John, and James thought. He didn't come unglued when John the Baptist began to doubt him. He didn't care whether Caesar smiled or frowned. I know so many people who have the disease of needing to be accepted by everyone, and they spend so much time being accepted by everyone that they can't be their own person. It always astounds me. I have never been concerned about what people have thought about what I do. Have you ever experienced that euphoric bubble when you finally reach a decision that you know is right? People have various names for it: feeling centered, being right on, being in a state of grace. Those who have experienced this feeling say there is nothing to compare to it. One woman said it was like being out at sea and hearing only silence, even though she could see people waving their arms on the shore. Here is how she described it. "Nothing matters as much to me as that still, silent point of being. Everything else seemed meaningless, almost like it was just a puppet show." She said she had never felt closer to God, even though the decision she made upset many people around her. Well, boy, were people upset when I decided to leave Boston, leave the Christian Science Church, leave my husband, leave everything, and go with a totally unknown man to Washington, D.C. to be trained as what? A messenger for the Ascended Masters? Many people were upset. Many people were upset. The Omega leader has a backbone like a rod of steel when it comes to doing the right thing. You may have to search for it, but once you hit the harmonic C, the note that matches perfectly with your soul, you, God, and destiny will be one harmonious sound, and others will stop, perk up their ears, and begin to gather around. Jesus had internal anchors. I think what we ought to do with these questions, we started numbering them, and we were on 13 and 14. So at the end of this session, I'm just going to point to a row and point to you, and you'll get a number, and you'll come back and you'll speak on that question our next session on Tuesday. So you'll have from this afternoon to next Tuesday to think about the question you got and how much you can build on that question and what you can extract from it. How many lessons can you learn, and what can you tell us about, for instance, what are your internal anchors? Because I'd like to hear what you're thinking about the questions that the author is posing. He guarded his energy. How many people do we know that never stop talking? The greatest waste of your energy is useless, non-pointed, nonsensical talk. He guarded his energy means he guarded all of his chakras. If you had the power to do anything, how would you decide what to do? This may seem like a minor problem, but look, for instance, at people who inherit large amounts of money. Many of them manage to make it disappear rather quickly. Likewise, people who have unlimited free time often find themselves involved in activities that ruin their health or peace of mind. Having too much can sometimes be as much of a burden as having too little. Jesus had tremendous energy, and he knew how to direct it. He was so clear about his mission that he avoided many real and potential energy leaks. Think about energy leaks you might have. For example, even though he was a teacher, he refused to engage in meaningless debates with people who wanted not to learn but to argue. Even at his trial, he did not waste time or energy in what he knew would be a meaningless defense. I have constantly told members of this church that we do not argue doctrine. I know many, especially fundamentalist churches, who are constantly arguing and drawing people into debate as if whoever wins the argument proves their point and therefore the way Jesus would have done it. It's the most senseless human chatter to argue about Scripture. Leave people to their own interpretation of Scripture. Although he was a recruiter of sorts, he never wasted energy begging or manipulating others to follow him. In fact, he trained his staff to wipe the dust from their feet and to keep moving if people were resistant to his ideas. He also said not to cast your pearls before swine, a very graphic image about the importance of knowing where and with whom to share the treasure of your energy. Did you ever tell someone, especially early on the path, of a tremendous vision you had or a profound experience and had them doubt or laugh or make light of it? And what happened? It dissipated the depth of the experience for you because someone spoke disparagingly. Jesus was so aware of his energy that once when a woman reached out and grabbed his clothes in the middle of a crowd, he turned around and asked, "Who touched me?" The staff members were astonished since he was being pushed and shoved and crowded by many as they walked along. "Everybody's touching you," they said. "No, I felt power go out from me," he said. He then turned to face the woman who asked to be healed. Her intense desire drew on his energy so that he could literally feel her faith. Feel her faith. We are told that he came through walls without opening doors, and of course he emerged from a sealed tomb. This man was a master of the physics of energy, especially his own, and he was very careful about how he used it. How many energy leaks do we have in our own daily lives? Leaks such as angry words, distractions, or tampering in someone else's business while neglecting our own. To be a leader requires a tremendous amount of energy. Perhaps that is one reason why entertainers and rock stars often succumb to the energy boosts offered by alcohol or drugs. They are pouring out so much energy to the crowds that their own reserve gets depleted. They then look for instant energy. I have noted over the years reading about psychics and those who give psychic dictations. And every one of them that I have read about always says that when they are finished doing their psychic readings or whatever they're doing, channeling spirits and so forth, that they are completely exhausted. That is the telltale sign of someone who really hasn't plugged in to the source of God. They're operating out of the astral plane, and so they are depleted. I am so full of light after dictations that it may take me 4 to 5 hours before I can go to sleep because of the light that pours through me. That's when I give dictations in the evening. So beware of people who do such readings and are totally spent. They are spending the energy that is necessary for the body to run. A close friend of mine who is known for her highly polished intuitive ability recently returned from a meeting where there had been many hidden agendas and open conflicts. She sat down with a heavy sigh and said wearily, "I think my psychic feelers have been damaged." She has learned to develop ways to replenish her antenna. Quiet prayer, rest, and time alone are ways that work for her, as well as a good round of golf. Most leaders are intuitive, or they would not be able to hear and see things that no one else can see or hear. Leaders must therefore be aware that their energy is subject to depletion, and they must make guarding that energy reserve a priority. The Christ in you is the leader, and the soul of you is the pupil of your Christ self who is teaching you how to become a leader. So when I say the word leader, don't say, well, I'm not a leader. Yes, you are. The Christ self in you is a leader. And these are workshops at Summit University where you're putting on the mantle of leadership. And this is a great guidebook. Energy is everywhere, but stillness plays a major role in its conversion from potential to actualized energy. At Callaway Gardens, I was amazed to learn that butterflies have to spread their wings in the morning sunshine because the scales on their wings are actually solar cells. Without that source of energy, they cannot fly. It is no coincidence that most of the leaders and prophets in the Old Testament were shepherds, people with plenty of time to listen. If there is no snow in the mountains, there will be a drought in the plains. Everyone needs to be in tune with her or his source of energy. Jesus guarded his energy. I'm going to conclude at this section. It's a good section to conclude on, guarding your energy. Question: what daily energy leaks keep you from being focused? I can raise my hand and tell you telephone calls. If I turn off the phone, I'm not there when the people need me. If I leave it on, I get interrupted. 18, how do you replenish your energy reserve? How often? It's very important, isn't it? I think you can hear in my voice that I have not replenished my reserves from the conference. That's because I didn't stop working. So I did a no-no that I'm telling you not to do. So be sure and get your rest. And I would like to conclude this with the song of the Chohan of the day, Beloved Nada. And think about Nada. Nada being the Chohan of the sixth ray, she occupies the office that Jesus occupied, Chohan of the sixth ray. Please make your calls. 232A. Please stand. In the name of the light of God that never fails, we seal these hearts in the heart of the ascended Lady Master Nada, in the heart of Jesus Christ. We call for the blossoming of our souls and the enfolding of the flowers of the heart, that we may place these upon the altar of God in memory of all victories of the victors. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and the Divine Mother. Amen. Thank you very much. We are dismissed for recess.